Hi, this is Bobby Davis from Foundry, and I just want to give you an update of kind of the things that we've been doing lately. Last week, we got the opportunity to go to New Ventures Demo Day 2019 conference, and that conference had 50 or 60 VCs from North Carolina married up with 50 or 60 internet startup companies or technically based companies. And it allowed them to pitch their software or their service to these VCs in the hopes of getting funded. Foundry had the honor of covering that and talking to some business leaders, some VCs, and all of these people that were at the conference. And one of those conversations was very interesting to me. We talked to Tim McLoughlin from Cofounders Capital, and it gave us a really deep insight in how these venture capitalists create deals, how the pitch works, and all of this information about how these things get working. So if you're out there and you've got a startup idea and you're wondering, how do I get funded? I think you'll find a lot of very good information in this conversation I had with Tim McLoughlin. And if you're out there and you're just wondering, like, how does this work? How do these startups get funded? You can get a little inside look behind the curtain of how these VCs operate. Let's go to my conversation with Tim McLoughlin from Cofounders Capital. Hey, and we're back here with Demo Day 2019, sponsored by New Ventures. I'm Bobby Davis with Foundry, and I'm sitting here with Tim McLoughlin. He is he's with Cofounders Capital. What do you do at Cofounders Capital? And tell me a little bit about what you guys do.
Yeah, sure. So we're a $31 million, this is our second fund, venture capital fund, investing in B2B software companies, primarily in North Carolina. So we have some investments outside of the state, but we really like to invest in North Carolina. And typically we're first institutional money into deals. So your early stage, we often say nothing's too early for us to start talking to.
Right.
So you developers or you founders with an idea, come talk to us. We'll start the conversation going, and often we're first time we'll write pre-revenue checks into deals.
Okay.
So companies don't have to be too far along for us to start getting involved with them and start investing.
Okay, that's exciting. I think that's exciting news. There's a lot of people that are watching this that probably do have a software idea that they would like to pitch. I was talking to a guy on the phone the other day, and he was trying to sell me something, and he was from another state.
Sure.
I won't say that it was in California, but it was. And he asked me a really weird question. He said, do you guys have technology jobs in North Carolina? And I'm like, yeah, we made Fortnite here, you know? I mean, so like, tell me about the state of like North Carolina. If you're investing in North Carolina, you must obviously think there's money to be made here.
Yeah, sure. And I think that there was this other big acquisition recently called Red Hat and
yeah,
IBM,
exactly.
where a lot of people made a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, one of the knocks on North Carolina has been there haven't been these huge exits, right?
Right, yeah.
That you know, that there have been in Silicon Valley or in Boston.
Right.
And so I think when people look at those huge exits, they're looking at where can they make these home run unicorn type returns. Well, North Carolina is starting to get those, which I think is great. But what we really need is we need to seed more early stage deals in the area so that we have some of those bigger exits. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do at Cofounders is seed more of these early deals so in the next few years we can have these larger exits. But at the same time, you look at all the local universities, you look at people leaving some of the larger corporations in the area. You know, entrepreneurship is one of the fastest growing degrees at NC State, University of North Carolina, and Duke, right? So you have a lot of entrepreneurs coming up, and then computer science is also on the radar with all these schools too.
Sure. Yeah.
So if we can start putting together some of these entrepreneurs and some of these technologists, I think we're in a great market right now to have some really big wins in the area for investors and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, because I've made my hay here. I've started several companies, most recently Foundry, and we teach people to code and then we get them jobs, because what I see is 1,700 to 4,000 openings every single day in North Carolina for just software development. And so since you're in B2B software, talk to me, how do you evaluate a software company? How do you do that? Because all these people are gravitating to these companies.
Yeah,
How do you do it?
Sure. Well, I would say that the actual technology piece and going through the actual tech stack or whatever it is probably the last step on our diligence. We don't get into that. We make sure we start with the people, that are running the company. What's their background? Are they coachable? Can we work with the people? Right. From there, we move into the value props. What problem is this trying to solve, and what's the solution? How valuable is that solution? So if someone can come into me and pitch who they're selling to and what the value is that their software is creating in the first couple minutes, Right. That's really, really good.
Right.
After that, we start looking at the market. Is this a growing market? Is there an opportunity for a large exit here where we can actually get the kind of returns we want?
Right.
So it's people first, you look at the value props, you look at the market, and then we look at the technology, right? Is there some barrier to entry here? Is this something that not every developer can just go and create and try to build a business around?
Right.
What's the barrier there?
Yeah, so you're looking at like, how do you protect the business? Are you looking for like recurring revenue streams primarily, subscription, software as a service? Is that what you're looking at?
Primarily. I mean, primarily that's what we're looking at. And it can be a monthly recurring revenue stream. It could be an annual license that these companies are signing. But what you really find with these businesses where you get the huge multiples is multiples on top line revenue is what does the customer retention look like, right?
Right.
So if it's a one-off services, it's going to be harder to have that recurring revenue stream than if you're month to month or year to year and providing real value. So
yeah, I counsel a lot of people coming in, and I explain to them like this: if you work all year to sell 100 customers, when after Christmas and December 31st is New Year's Day, do you still have 100 customers, or you have to start over and find 100 new ones to make business? And that's really what software as a service or like recurring revenue models do.
Yeah, like it's all about how much does it cost you to acquire those customers,
right,
and then what's the customer lifetime value. And there's certain ratios that you look for in that business. The longer you keep those customers paying, the higher the customer lifetime value, the better investment, better return you're going to get. And the only other thing I'll add is if you can upsell within those accounts. So if I can sign 100 customers and then I can upsell 50 of those customers, that's a lot easier than acquiring a new customer to generate more revenue.
Yeah. Now, I heard you mention the word coachable.
Yeah.
And so like when I work with a lot of software developers, and I'm one too, we do sometimes act like divas and we're not really coachable because sometimes we think we know everything. Describe that guy he's running a software company, he's probably technical. What do you mean by coachable? What does he have to be willing to do to be successful with you?
Yeah, sure. I think what we found is understanding where your strengths are, and being able to take input from other people that have different strengths than you. So whether that is bringing on a co-founder on your team that has more of the business side of the experience, or biz dev, or sales and marketing, or whatever it is. Just knowing where your strengths are and being able to bring in that additional help. And that goes for investors too. Investors don't know. I can't sit there and develop I can't write code. That's not my area of expertise. But I have invested in 22 B2B software companies, and I see where they fail or where they succeed. And I kind of got some knowledge there that I can help, maybe a developer out with, hey, here's some problems you might run into. And I just want to see how they react to that. Whether they're actually taking that insight.
Are they willing to let it go, or are they control freaks? So like a lot of times when you're running a company, you can be a control freak to a certain degree, but eventually you have to bring other people in and empower them and trust them to do something for you,
And that's one thing I see with some, on the technical founder side, they're very reluctant to share what they've done, how they've done it, which can lead to either not getting an investment, because eventually an investor's got to look behind the curtain and see what's there. Or it really limits your business development opportunities or your acquisition opportunities. So sometimes I understand why you want to protect it a little bit, but there's always that time where you need to start sharing some more information if anything's ever going to really happen.
So, how does someone get a meeting with Tim McLoughlin? If they want the hour of power with you, like what would make you want to say, okay, I want to hear what you have to say?
So the first is a warm introduction from either anyone that we have a professional relationship with. So we have over 150 investors between our two funds. So if one of them is making an introduction to us, I'm going to take that meeting. Our attorneys, CPAs, all those folks that know us, if they're making an introduction, understand our business model, other co-investors. So there's a lot of people in our network that would, if they made a recommendation, it would make me want to take that meeting. The second piece to that is an entrepreneur that's done their research. So if they're reaching out to me with a specific ask because it's something I can actually help with, then I'm more inclined to take that meeting rather than just a kind of a shotgun approach to a cold email that has no direct ask out of me, So, if I can help, I typically will, even if it's not going to be a company we can invest in directly.
So what I'm telling them is make sure you send that email right. So like, you're going to make sure that it's to the point, direct, know exactly what you want to achieve, so that you can envision to see if this is right for me or not.
I get 5 to 10 emails a day that are just, they had a database of investors,
Right.
shot it out to all of them. I don't even, after the first line, if I know it's an email
Form
like
mail.
that, I just delete it right away.
Okay, cool. Now let's talk about the pitching of this. So what have you seen that like founders do that kills their deals, and what make it work for them?
Sure. Especially, so the number one thing I've seen for successful founders is the ability to articulate their value props to their customers. So if somebody can come in the first slide or two of a deck, in the first 2 minutes of a meeting, tell me what they do, who they're selling to, and what the value props are to that customer, I'm very intrigued on what they're doing, if they can provide real value. If I'm 5-10 minutes into a pitch and I have no idea what the product or what the offering or what the value is this company's creating, I'm most likely not going to invest.
You're done at that point.
Yeah, I'm done. I mean, and my partner and I will sit across and look at each other, and we give each other the look, which is, do you have any idea what they're doing? Because I don't.
I know, yeah.
And where especially technical founders get really hung up is they start talking about the development and what's behind the scenes,
the stack,
right? How they do it, right? I don't really care how you do it. We often say that if you could sell a blue pill and the blue pill solved all the value props that you claim they did, people would just buy your blue pill.
Right, exactly. And
so,
people are buying blue pills.
Yeah, people are buying blue pills, that's true. But it's more about articulating the value that you have to your customers, I think is more key to me. So.
Yeah, okay, so like be clear on like value prop, because I do see that a lot. A lot of times they'll come to me and they're first telling me, oh, this is written in C# and we've got this multi-thread thing going on. And I'm like, hold on a second, what does it do?
Yeah.
I mean, so like if you have to like quiz them on that, they need to understand like the business part of it comes before the technology.
That's right. Don't create a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. Right. What's the problem? How you're solving it? What's the value creation?
Yeah. Okay.
And quantify it if you can.
Right. And so this comes down to having a pitch deck. Are you still like looking at pitch decks and things like that? Or?
I like looking at pitch decks. I mean, there are certain check boxes that I'd like to see in a pitch deck, like what's the market size, what's the opportunity, what's the pricing model, all that stuff. What's the team look like? All that stuff's important, but really the founder's ability to articulate is more important to me. So if somebody just sent me an email that said, hey, I have a software company, here's what it is, here's who we sell to, here's the kind of money we think we can make, I don't need a deck to set up a meeting with that person, just have a conversation.
Right.
I'd say only about 20 or 30% of our initial meetings actually have a deck. The rest of them are just, hey, just tell me about what you're doing. Let me see if it makes sense.
Yeah, my first company I didn't have a deck at all.
Yeah.
Like we just talked about the software, and
good for you. You didn't have to waste your time doing
the value prop, and we were off and running. So like I think that a lot of people spend a lot of time on the deck, but then they miss it in the first 3 slides.
Or the other mistake some folks make is they go in, they get there and they start pulling out their phone or pulling out their computer and want to do a demo right away. I do not want to see a demo until I understand what the problem is and what you're trying to do. Right? If I ask for a demo, that's probably the time to pull that out. We just assume the technology works.
That's a great quote, because like I've said that a lot of entrepreneurs, and they don't believe me when I say that.
Yeah.
But like when you've seen something for the first time, you don't really, when you're buying a car, you don't ask, is this thing drivable? You just assume you can drive it. You're judging it based on other factors. Do I like the way it looks, or what are the features it is? What will it, is it red? I mean, those kind of things.
And the technology is normally just a function of time and money.
Right, exactly.
And we're going to figure out how much time it's going to take, but how much time it's going to take is probably a function of money.
Right.
And if you're talking to somebody that has the money, then talk about the vision, right?
Right. Okay. Well, that's cool. So if you get a meeting and you take a meeting and they're taking our advice and you reach someone, what can they expect of it? What should they be looking for, like far as like ownership, possession, stake? How much control they're going to have to give up, or how do you work those numbers out with a co-founder?
Sure. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that VCs or other investors are going to want to take as much of the company as they can.
Right.
And it's just simply not the case. We want to make sure that if a founder wanted to walk away, it'd be pretty painful for them to walk away.
Right.
We want them to have significant ownership in the company.
Right.
And the more ownership they have in the company, the easier it is to negotiate a potential exit. Because, hey, they're going to make money, we're going to make money, and everybody's happy.
Right.
So if you have a founder that doesn't own enough of their company, it can be tough. So how much ownership? It all depends on, how much of your company you need at the end of the day to walk away, right?
Right.
If you think that it's a company that might exit for $40 million, well then only owning 1% of that company at the end of the day is going to be pretty tough. It's probably not going to be worth the time you put in.
Right.
But if it's a $1 billion opportunity, you're going to be more comfortable taking more money to get to that point to suffer more dilution.
Right.
So we often say it's all about how much money do you put in your pocket at the end of the day. So keep that in mind. Now, typically, if you want to talk about actual deal terms, you know, in your series seed and then subsequent rounds, you're probably going to be looking to take about 20% dilution, 15 to 25% dilution on each round, depending on how you're doing.
Right.
Now, the big variable in that is how much money do you get for that dilution.
Right. Yeah.
So are you getting, you know, are you raising $1 million for that 15, 20%?
Right.
Or are you raising $5 million for that 15,
Right.
20%?
So if you meet an investor, and let's say that you have, hypothetically, they've got
Yeah.
customer growth, you know, they've got things going on, and they're looking to take capital in, does that capital normally stay wholly in the company, or does the investor take some off the table? How does that work? When the guy says, I'd like to take some money home, but you want to grow the company, you have different goals. Like, how do you negotiate those things out?
So in the seed stage, seed 2, Series A, you're almost never going to find any capital coming into a company to buy out any earlier investors.
Right,
almost never. Now, we have done that in the past,
Right.
but it's very rare. There's
Right.
got to be a very specific situation where we would do that.
Right.
Typically, it's all money that's going to grow that you want for growth capital, right?
Right.
To fuel growth. Now, once you're raising those late Series A, Series B, Series C, and investors want to come in and write a bigger check and take more ownership,
Right.
they're more willing to buy out some of those seed investors.
Or buy some of your stock.
Or buy some of the founder shares.
Right,
But
yeah.
typically, they're doing that to get to a certain position in the company where they have more power,
More
right?
power.
You know,
Okay.
maybe they want majority, maybe they need a minimum of 40%, something like that.
Okay.
And that's probably why they're making that offer.
Right. So I'm going to ask a really in the weeds question.
Sure.
So like, how are these companies structured typically if you're going to an investor? Are they going to stay as an LLC, or do you guys go to C Corps? And how do you handle pass-throughs and things like that?
So we can only invest in C Corps.
That's what I figured.
So
Right.
we're only investing in C Corps where you can set up stock option pools, and there's
Right.
all the things that come along with that. So simply as part of the closing process, it doesn't matter to us if it's an LLC when it comes in.
Right.
We'll convert it in our investment into a C Corp as part of that process.
And that's so you don't have pass-through income.
Don't
back
have to worry
you.
about pass-throughs.
You
Because
don't have to fight over that, right? Yeah.
being in the weeds, I mean, technically a company, we could be paying taxes on something we never see any profit
Exactly.
from. And then
Yeah.
that can go back to our shareholders, which could be a problem.
Right. So okay. Well, that's cool. Anything else that you could offer advice to an investor or a kind of future founder here?
A future founder here?
Yeah.
Yeah, make sure that you're building out teams with diverse skill sets. So
Right.
if you're looking for a co-founder in a company, don't have it be your buddy that has all the same interests as you, that you went to school with, and you have all the same skill sets, right? Maybe if you're a technical founder, maybe pair up with some, a business person, someone with sales and marketing expertise, someone that can articulate that, and vice versa, right?
Okay,
And
great.
I think those kind of teams that come in to pitch have a much better chance of getting funded.
All right. Well, Tim,
Great.
thanks a lot for
Yeah,
coming in.
yeah, it's great
Good
talking
luck
with
with the
you.
show. I hope you find that next diamond here this
Oh
week.
yeah, me too, me
All
too.
right.
Thank you very much.
So that was my conversation with Tim McLoughlin from Cofounders Capital. And I wanted to say, here's the things I think you should take away from that conversation. Number one is clarity of your pitch in the first 2 minutes. If you get the opportunity to pitch, you absolutely must be on point is, what does your service do? How do you do it? And how are you going to make money? And you need to describe that in a very clear fashion. If it's not clear, you're going to kill your deal. And that was the main thing that I noticed when I was talking to Tim, is that they look at a lot of deals, and that first 2 minutes is very, very key. So don't save that to the end of your pitch session or your pitch deck. Make sure that's up front in the first 2 minutes of a pitch, or these guys are just going to turn it off and probably not fund you. The other thing that I thought was real interesting is being up to date or very clear on your metrics, knowing like, what is your market? How big is your market? And what's the overall opportunity to the investor? Because the investor does want to make money, but they also want you to make money too. So if you can describe those two things, I think that will get you a long way to getting funded for your idea. Now, the other thing that I want you to take away from this, and of course, we're in this industry and we see this every day, but it may not be abundantly clear to you. And I think I want you to understand this. I want you to think about coding is the kind of the industrial revolution of our time. It's no better time to learn to code than right now, because these companies are literally springing up overnight. They are getting funded and they are providing great wealth and opportunity to a lot of people. And the only thing that sets them apart from you is they know how to code. At Founder, we'd love to be that partner that could coach you along the way, teach you how to code, put you into that first software job. So if you're interested in that, it's coderfoundry.com/job roadmap. Let's start that coding career today. Anyway, good luck and keep coding.